The Trump administration's federal hiring freeze could create a potential shortfall of firefighters ahead of the next fire season. The president's executive order has stopped the onboarding of thousands of seasonal federal firefighters, including those who worked for agencies called on to help battle the devastating Los Angeles area fires. Even though the order does not apply to positions related to public safety, federal firefighters are not exempt, according to a person who works in hiring at the Bureau of Land Management. Let's go right to NBC News correspondent Jacob Soboroff, who is the reporter on this story, and he joins us now with more. Jacob, what can you tell us?
Hey, Mika, good morning. So, yeah, one of the things I think that was a massive relief to people here in Los Angeles as we went through both the Palisades and the Eaton fire was the sight of those green fire trucks pulling up from the U.S. Forest Service and what was really a massive mutual aid effort. There was federal, there was state, and there were local jurisdictions from all over California and all over the country that came to assist in battling what Governor Gavin Newsom told me was potentially the most costly natural disaster in the history of the United States of America. There are around 15 to 20,000 federal firefighters that work for the United States government. Most of them are temporary, either career or temporary, but all are seasonal. And so every year there is a massive onboarding process for many of these positions. And because it's the federal government, there are lengthy background checks that are associated with these firefighters coming on in order to work for the federal government. And this hiring freeze, despite President Trump's executive order on January 20th saying it was going to exempt people that deal in public safety, has effectively stalled the hiring of these federal firefighters all throughout the federal system, at the Bureau of Land Management within the Department of Interior, at the National Park Service, which has its own firefighters, and at the U.S. Forest Service, which has the most firefighters of this whole operation. So there is a lot of concern here on the ground, not just in Los Angeles, where these firefighters came and really helped in the mutual aid effort, but all across the American West, where obviously the fire seasons are getting longer, the fires are getting bigger, the fires are getting more dangerous. And we talked to, actually a tip came through our friends at the Rachel Maddow Show. We talked to an employee who works in hiring at the Bureau of Land Management, and they said hold all offers related to fire positions was the directive that at least this employee in this division got. The level of stupidity and negligence here, this person told me, is enraging. What if there's nobody to show up? How many people died with garden hoses in their hands? Obviously, speaking of the recent fires. So there's a lot of concern. The governor's office here in California is concerned about this. I talked to them yesterday. The ramifications are potentially quite significant.
Jacob, let's talk about another way the Trump administration may be impacting the ability to fight fires there in other parts of the California economy and day-to-day life. And that's as these reservoirs that were in the northern part of the state that the Trump administration, federal officials ordered opened up. Let's remind viewers, this is water not heading to Southern California, and instead water that farmers may now not have when they need it during the dry season later in the year. Talk to us more, state you know so well, about the ramifications and just sort of the anger about this Trump decision, which seemed to be simply about public relations.
The simplest way that I could put it, Jonathan, is when I drove to the Bureau here in Los Angeles this morning, thank God, it's finally pouring rain in Los Angeles. We are in the middle of the winter season. We do not need billions of gallons of water released up into the Central Valley, which doesn't make its way down to Southern California here in the Los Angeles area. Anybody that's seen the movie Chinatown knows how water makes its way to Los Angeles. We have a series of aqueducts and reservoirs and systems that come both from the Sierra Nevada, from the Colorado River. I've done stories here on MSNBC about where our water comes from, and even in the face of water shortages, how places like Los Angeles have enough water to do things like sustain itself day to day. And so when President Trump has ordered this federal release of billions of gallons of water that goes up to the Central Valley in the middle of the winter, I don't think it's very hard to wrap your head around how in the summertime, when that water is needed and necessary, it obviously is not going to be there to help us here, not only in Southern California, but even for those farmers in the Central Valley that he says he's doing this to protect.
NBC's Jacob Soboroff, thank you very much for your reporting. We appreciate it.